Hi, everyone joining us. I was just telling my friend Liz Smith that she looks so pretty tonight. Your skin looks you're glowing, Liz. What's going
You know,
on?
it's motherhood. It's the
Yeah.
motherhood glow, the 2-year glow up, right? And
Well, well,
it's so easy being the mom of a toddler.
well, it's working. How old is your baby?
He's 2 years and 2 months now.
Oh my gosh. My grandson is 18 months.
Wow, how do you speaking of people who look deceptively good, how do you have a grandson that's 18 months? You look like you would be the mom of an 18-month-year-old.
Oh my God. Okay, quit it some more, Liz. We're just gonna give each other compliments, you guys, all night. Anyway, we're just waiting for a few more people to join us. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I'm here with my friend Liz Smith. Liz is a veteran Democratic strategist. Worked with more than 20 campaigns. She's currently working with a new group called majority Democrats, and she's going to tell us what that is in a second. But she was senior advisor to Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign. That's a hard thing to say. Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign. She's worked for everyone from President Obama to Andrew Cuomo. I want to ask you about that. Anyway, she is my go-to political insider, and she's nice enough to spend some time with us, you guys, kind of debriefing on the campaign so you can find out what's happening. You don't have to listen to cable news all night. But
Mhm.
let's talk because, first of all, before we get to the headlines, and there are quite a few, what is Majority Democrats, Liz?
It is a group that was formed after the 2024 election that is focused on making the Democrats a majority party again. Not only just a majority party where it seesaws back and forth every 2 years between 4 seats here in the House, 4 seats there in the House, but helps build a durable majority for Democrats across the country. And that means working with Democrats who can win everywhere at
State
every level.
legislatures, school
Exact
boards.
mayors, lieutenant governors, attorney generals, all of the above.
Okay, I'm going to ask you later what the Democrats have an image problem, Liz, and what you're going to do to change that. But tonight it's a
Mhm,
very good night for Democrats. Let's start with my home state of Virginia, everyone, if you will bear with me. The Old Dominion has elected its first female governor, which is a little bit bittersweet for me, you all, because my sister Emily, who Liz knows of, was running for lieutenant governor with Mark Warner when she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and had to drop out of the race and later, sadly, tragically died. And the reason I mention it is because she was often discussed as predicted to be the first female governor of
uh-oh.
Virginia. So, having said that, I could not be more thrilled for Abigail Spanberger. The race was called, I guess, about a half hour ago. Talk about this race, who she was facing, and give us, I mean, I know a lot about this, Liz, but from your perspective, you've been really on the ground working on this campaign. Talk about sort of what Abigail Spanberger was facing and maybe the mood of Virginia, which is varied depending on where you live, right?
Right. And first off, let me just say, Kate, to what you just shared, your sister's legacy lives on through Abigail Spanberger, and I know how much your sister means to you still. And so even when our loved ones pass away, they still live on in some way. And I think that tonight, your sister's like sending you a sign, right? That she's living on and she's living on in the hearts of Virginians. Um, Now, just going to the race, Virginia is always sort of looked at as one of the bellwethers of what the national mood is. I worked on in Virginia in the gubernatorial race in 2009, and the absolute shellacking that Cree Deeds faced in that race was sort of portended what was going to happen with the Tea Party wave, where Democrats would lose and hemorrhage support across the country. Traditionally, it goes the opposite way of the White House, and certainly tonight it did. But it was called within 1 hour, not a particularly close race. Why is that? Abigail Spanberger was a really, really, really strong candidate.
She's so impressive, Liz. I mean, why don't you tell people quickly her CV and her background? Because honestly, I mean, she was sort of had the perfect background, I think, to run for governor.
Yeah, she was prior to running for office. She first ran for office in 2018, and flipped a Republican district. It was Dave Bratt was a Republican and had previously been Eric Cantor's district. So this was a pretty Republican district. Prior to that, she had been in the CIA. We don't know much about her time in the CIA, which is a
I
good
think
thing.
she was a caseworker is
Yeah,
how it was
exactly.
described to me.
Exactly. We know that she took down a lot of bad guys. Um,
Yeah.
but obviously it's not something she can talk a lot about. However, she is someone who does have that background in federal law enforcement and surveillance, all of that stuff, and intelligence. Sorry, and she brought that to the campaign trail in 2018, and she had this viral moment in the 2018 campaign when Dave Bratt, in one debate, brought up Nancy Pelosi's name 20 to 25 times and kept trying to tie Abigail to her. And Abigail said, I'm not Barack Obama. I am not Nancy Pelosi. My name is Abigail Spanberger. And it was a big moment because she clearly, from the beginning of her career, separated herself from a problematic national Democratic brand in a district like that. So when she became the nominee, when she, announced to run for governor, she was able to clear the field in part because people knew that whatever the tides were, she would probably be able to overcome any brand problems with the Democrats because she was someone who has been able to separate herself from them across many different campaigns, having won a swing district and having that different type of profile that she has.
Also, her opponent, who had been Glenn Youngkin's lieutenant governor, was not a very strong candidate and just sort of, how can I say this? Seemed a little off. Is that fair?
Totally off. She reminds me of that class of Senate candidates, I think, in 2022, like Herschel Walker, Dr. Oz, Carrie Lake, right? Where
Right.
there's something a little off about them. And Winsome Sears definitely had that. And I think that's one of the reasons why you didn't really see Donald Trump even try to throw his support behind her. On top of her, Winsome Sears being let's be real, a bad candidate. You had a lot of national headwinds in this district. As I mentioned, Virginia almost always goes the opposite way of the White House. Um, but you also had Trump, going in with Doge, Republicans doing all these federal layoffs, the shutdown, and it created this like really bad stew for Republicans there where um, they're so loath to distance themselves from Donald Trump that they had to sort of own all of the policies he was embracing and enacting that really hurt Virginia's economy. And one thing we've seen in election after election and all three elections tonight is that the economy is top of mind for voters, and that was just going to be a killer for them.
Yes, and Winsome Sears not once criticized Donald Trump on the
Nope.
campaign trail. So that was, I think, a lot of it was discordant, I think, for a lot of Virginia voters and what they were experiencing. And as usual, the Democrats crushed it, absolutely crushed it in Northern Virginia, which is really in
Hmm.
some ways a different part of this, a different state than some rural Virginia, for example, where Sears did better, but she did not outperform Trump in the presidential election, and Abigail Spanberger routinely, I think almost everywhere, outperformed Kamala Harris.
And that's an important point, Katie, because sometimes we just look at the top line number and it's like, oh, did you win this county or this county? And so much of winning elections is not just about whether you win a county or not, it's whether you lose by less. And she did something that more Democrats need to do, which is go everywhere, talk to everyone, try to persuade Trump voters to come to our side. And sometimes, like, losing by less is a win as well. And, if you look at a community like Bristol, for instance, on the Tennessee border, ruby red, but she's losing it by like, she's winning it. She's overperforming Kamala Harris by double digits there. That's
Right.
that's
So
too much of
she's
a
losing,
mouthful.
but
Yeah,
she's still winning in a way in some of
exactly.
these rural areas. I interviewed her, I guess, like 10 days ago or so. And I think she was frustrated because I asked her about Jay Jones. That's the attorney general
Mhm.
candidate who had texted some unsavory things about his opposite. Well, explain what he did exactly.
He texted a Republican colleague some violent things about some of his colleagues. It could not have been worse timed with the Charlie Kirk assassination. He said things that I frankly don't even want to repeat, right,
Yeah, yeah.
on a live
But
stream.
but
But he said that, and so you would think, okay, this is the type of scandal that would take someone like Jay Jones down in a normal year. But with like everything going on with Trump, the fact that Trump incites so much violence, I think Democrats and voters in Virginia, who are generally sort of hew toward being more civil and
thank you. I think of us that way.
right, right. And willing to like buck their party, that they had to weigh, okay, a couple bad text messages, really bad text messages. Let's not discount that versus Donald Trump unchecked and the need for law enforcement officials like a state attorney general to offer that check. And it looks like voters decided that this latter was more important than the former.
So is Jay Jones gonna win, you think?
Yeah, looks that way, and, I would have predicted that before because I think ultimately people do want a check on Trump's administration and his out of control government.
A friend of mine told me his text messages were a spoof of The Office. I hadn't heard that, but
They were, yes. It was a line from The Office.
oh, okay, interesting.
But out of context, it's
Right.
still sounds bad, and it's one of those things where it's on. We all, God knows I send bad text messages. I've had some of them in the press myself and not been excited about it, but, um, you've gotta be careful this day and age, and especially when we've seen this rise in political violence.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about New Jersey,
Okay.
and then I wanna talk about sort of what everything means, and I know we have, like, 6 minutes,
6
I
minutes, yeah.
think, because 'cause you're going on the Bulwarks podcast or
To be your warm
li
up act.
live stream up, and then I'm going on the Bulwark, you guys, at 9 if you wanna tune in, but let's just talk about New Jersey. Mikey, Sherrill was just declared the winner in New Jersey. Man, that was a pretty tight race, and I interviewed her as well, and she had that sort of devastating interview with a local news reporter in New York City. I think it was
It was
WCBS
it was Marsha Kramer, yeah.
yeah, when Marcia asked what would be the first thing legislative act or as governor, what would be your first order of business? And she really struggled answering that question, which I know she wanted to probably like kick herself after that interview was over. She told me it was not a good day for her, but she was able to pull it off. What are your thoughts on the New Jersey race?
Not even pull it off. Katie, the polls closed there 45 minutes ago. And they've already called it. That is not a super close race. And I think people are always looking for like some drama every election year. And they decided the drama was going to be New York City and New Jersey. And, but Mikey clearly is overperforming what the expectations were. It looks like she's going to overperform where Kamala Harris was in 2024. And reverse some of the losses we saw with key communities like the Latino community, for instance, in New Jersey. We saw Passaic County, which when I worked on the New Jersey gubernatorial race as well in 2009. And Passaic County back then, it's a very Latino county, big Dominican population. It had been seen as like the base for Democrats. And then it was a shock. It went for Donald Trump in 2024. And it looks like Mikey's going to be doing well there, running up.
Do you think that's because of the ICE stuff?
I think so. I think a couple things. Yes. So the ICE stuff is, to use your words, the ICE
Yeah,
stuff.
sorry, the ICE, the ICE raids,
Yes.
actions,
It's the ICE raids.
brutality.
It's the ICE raids and also the racial profiling that I think is alienating Latino voters. Um, generally, I think Latino voters tend to be a little bit more Latino Democrats tend to be a little bit more conservative than white Democrats. And so on things like the border, they want border security, but they do not want racial profiling. They do not want these indiscriminate raids of communities like we've seen, and this, inhumane separation of families and kids being zip tied, all of that. Yes. So I do think that's part of it. But also their number one issue is the economy and costs. And Mikey, like Abigail Spanberger, made that the central focus of her campaign, making New Jersey more affordable. And specifically, she zeroed in on lowering utility costs because there is a utility cost crisis in New Jersey. And she said her first action as governor, well, not in that interview, but
Yeah.
but otherwise would be declaring, a state of emergency for utility costs in New Jersey.
You mentioned affordability, and of course, that's what Zoran Mamdani ran
Yeah.
on, and it looks like he's doing very well in the mayoral race. I actually haven't seen that much about that. What are the latest polls telling you there?
I think he's gonna get over 50%, and I think it's a thrilling win, and it's a thrilling change for New York, and, the New York City mayoral, Zoran winning here, plus New Jersey, Virginia, I think sends a really strong message for Democrats that we can win everywhere, but there's no one way to be a Democrat. Um, we
Interesting.
we need
Because
people
the
like
argument is like go left, tack to the center.
Do all of it. Do all of it. Run Abigail Spanbergers, who can go to Wise County in Virginia and talk to Trump voters. Run Zoran Mamdani's, who can, like, activate all these young voters in a way no one has ever been able to do in New York City. And the turnout tonight is gonna be bigger than post 9/11 in New York City, and that's crazy to me. It's also crazy to me that he's gonna win so big when his opponents, like Andrew Cuomo, have tried to weaponize 9/11, Islamophobia against him. And look, I voted for Zoran Mamdani. I ranked him in the primary. I'm not super biased. I think he is a thrilling new political talent. Not someone I necessarily see eye to eye with on all the issues, but someone who I think is we should all be rooting for.
Yeah, so many of my Jewish friends are not excited about his candidacy or his election, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
Some are. Jewish voters are not a monolith, and some of my friends who are Jewish supported him. Some felt uncomfortable enough that it was reason not to support him.
Yeah, I understand that, right? It's not it's I don't think it's ever been an easy time to be a Jew in America. And right now, especially when you see people like Tucker Carlson platforming people like Nick Fuentes, for instance. But one thing that really disgusted me was seeing how Andrew Cuomo and people like that really weaponized that fear against Zoran Mamdani and tried to equate him being critical of the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, with being anti-Semitic. And everyone I know who has worked with Zoran Mamdani says that he is really putting his heart into this and that he's gonna work in good faith, and saw that in the campaign. He spoke to different audiences. He spoke to people who disagreed with him, and frankly, I think that he offered a DSA approach that was much more big tent and welcoming than what we've seen from previous iterations like Bernie Sanders and AOC.
What about Prop 50? Before I know you've got to go, but what
Yeah,
about Prop 50? Is
looks
that
like it
going to
will pass.
pass?
Yeah, mhm, and now then the question is to do it looks like Maryland is gonna follow
Right.
suit.
Well, I just saw Wes
Does
Moore,
Illinois?
and he just
Yep.
announced Maryland. I think the New York Constitution prohibits them from
Yeah.
doing it. I think the state of Virginia, understand, is trying to do it. But of
Yes.
course, the Republicans have a lot of, they have Texas, Missouri, what else? Other states that they're trying to redistrict in.
But you know what the antidote is? If we can't fight fire with fire and gerrymander everywhere, then we need to do what majority Democrats is doing and try to recruit Democrats who can win everywhere and try to support Democrats who can win everywhere. We shouldn't just have to rely on gerrymandering to win and, rigging the rules to win, and so, that's part of what I'm focused on.
And plus, I mean, there may be a big, if this is any indication, the midterms, this discontent with the current administration may be bubbling up and reach
Yes,
even, get
potentially.
we don't know.
Let's
But
not get ahead of
Liz,
ourselves.
all
Yeah.
right, yes, I want you to go. But thank you so much, Liz. Great to see you. You guys join Liz on the Bulwark live stream, and then I'm going to join them at 9 o'clock and just kind of shoot the shit with those guys. Liz,
I'm
bye.
excited to be your warm-up act.
Oh,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.